Welcome back to BAYL Money. So, today we're going to talk about how I would grow this business. This is basically a continuation from a short that I posted the other day about how I would take $300 and buy a business. And I found this business right here called export-u2.com. And it's basically a website that talks about the import export business and wholesaling, right? And I got asked, what would I do to grow this business, right? And to show that. So that is a great question, and it's actually pretty inspiring. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, first thing I want to do is just show you guys that the import export business is a huge industry, right? So there's going to be a way to make a lot of money in it, right? So just want to show you this here. It says the average exports increased by 23.5 billion from January 2022. Imports increased 7.5 billion from 2022. So this is a growing business still at this point. So it's not something that I would shy away from if you wanted to get involved in a business like this. But let's go ahead and take a look at the website. So one thing I do love about this site is that they have a lot of really good high quality pictures. They just, they stand out. They make it seem like this is a really good. They look like they're made for this site, so that's perfect. Even though I'm sure they're not, it does look like they are. But one of the things that I noticed is that they've got a whole lot of similar content. So they've got lists of wholesale, colored shipping box suppliers and vendors, lists of wholesale insulated shipping boxes and suppliers and vendors, lists of made in the U.S. dog toy vendors. So they do a lot of stuff about wholesale lists, right? Lists of wholesale suppliers and vendors, which is great, and it's obviously working. I did look them up on Ubersuggest. So in Ubersuggest, let me go ahead and go back to it. So for Ubersuggest, they are getting, let's see, about 900 monthly traffic. I'm just using this to base a thought process behind. On the listing, it says that they get about, let's see, 2,300 unique visits per month on average. Well, since December, that's what they had. About 3,800 total page views. So they do get traffic. It just may or may not be as much as what was stated here over the last couple months. But that is good. So main thing I want to point out is this. So first things first, what I want to do is see what they're ranking for and how we can find out who their target audience is and what we can do to position ourselves in a way that puts us in the forefront for that audience, right? So essentially, a simpler way to put that, how do I find out what this audience really wants, what they really need, and how do I put myself in a position to give it to this 800 or 900 or 2,000 people that come to this site per month, right? So that's what I would think about first, not how to grow the income, because the income is basically a reflection of how good a job you're doing in making sure that your product fits with your audience. So the first thing I would do is just take a look at this. So they're ranking for keywords about manufacturers, distribution or distributors, wholesalers, so on and so forth, right? Now we want to ask ourselves what type of people are looking for these keywords. Most likely, these people are already in business, right? And they're looking for these suppliers so that they can extend their business. So, for example, these people are probably in the import-export business, right? Because this is a website that's all about the import-export business. So what does an import-export business owner need the most, right? So just brainstorming out loud, most likely what they need, if they have these suppliers, they need customers. So who would their customers likely be? Right? Well, I would assume that it would likely be businesses. It might be, um, well, yeah, it would most likely be businesses, but how you would get in front of these businesses is going to be different from how you would get in front of maybe an end customer who's going to actually buy the product to use. So, what I would say is we would first need to do some research on how to get in front of those customers, right? So easiest thing to do is we're gonna take, um, let's say a question, or let's say distributors, right? So we're gonna take this keyword distributors, right? So there's about 110,000 searches per month, and we're gonna find out some questions that are common that people are asking, and it doesn't have to be. Um, It's not really about making a decision of how to grow the content yet. This is simply just to try to get in the mindset of the type of person who asks these questions, right? So, how distributors work, which distribution channel is best for a business. Uh, so some of these are going to be great, some of these are not going to be great. But I would say I'm going to read through these to try to find one that really makes sense. So how do distributors make money? That's a great keyword for someone who's in the process of thinking about starting this business, uh, or someone who just started on a whim. Maybe they found out how they can found a way to get products, but they haven't found a way to make money, or they uh, are having a hard time finding suppliers, which is who it seems like he's already attracting with this site. So I would say this is a great question to research. All right, so I'm just going to highlight that. Okay, let's see. All right, are distributors and wholesalers the same? That might be a good question for somebody who's kind of newer to this business, right? And ultimately, what I would say is based on the questions that we are finding with this, the people who are going to ask the most questions are going to be fairly newer to the business, which is good because if this is a resource where people are already searching for lists of suppliers, maybe the best way to kind of approach this is to, number one, think about the type of customer that we have. Number two, and this is the most important part, how do we create a resource for them that gives them the things that they really want and need within like a 5 minute thing in exchange for uh, a very small fee or a way to contact them in the future. I typically like to do a very small fee, just depends on the business. Because this is a business to business website, I would say charge a fee. If this was something where it's like, hey, we're gonna, try to get people to who need to build a relationship or a stronger bond, I would say, okay, whatever. Um, but since this is a new person getting into the business, I might charge a small fee. I might get away for free. I don't know. There will be more research with that. So, um, when suppliers, distributors, and customers, okay, that's a setup for a question, but it's not a full question. Let's see. All right, where do distributors get their products? So this is a great question that I feel like if people are looking for lists, they're already having this question in their head. So answering this question is a great way to. All right, basically, I guess the best way to think about it is this: if I have a page that answers this question and then links to all of the other pages with the distribution lists, now I have a hub for people to come to. It's not a lot of searches, is what this says, right? I don't want you to worry about that. What I'm really looking at is the audience, right? Where do distributors get their products, right? That is somebody who is looking to be a distributor or find out where their distributor gets the product so that they can either avoid a certain type of a product or cut them out, right? So in either case, this is a good question to ask and to answer. Um, all right. So what we found so far is that people looking just for the word distributors are typically looking for something that any questions that they have are all almost always about basically how to get started, right? Where do these distributors get their products? How do they make money? So on and so forth. Those are the business questions that you see the most. So let's see um, some other suggestions, right? So what I will do at this point, now we're going to put on the idea mind frame, right? Now we understand who this customer most likely is. It's somebody who's starting or trying to get started with a business, right? Because they're also looking for a list of products or a list of distributors, right? Wholesale manufacturers, so on and so forth. They're trying to buy cheap so that they can have a margin to then sell to either an end user or to a store or something like that, right? So, what I would say then is let's look for a keyword that gives us more traffic to aim for, but also gives us the right audience, right? So, distributors wholesale, distributors international. Uh, let's see. Okay, so this is interesting. Distributors for music, which I don't even know why you would need that if everybody listens to Spotify at this point. Um, distributors warehouse. All right. So then what I'm doing right now is I'm just getting a list of keywords that I can look up. All right. So let's find one more if we can. Okay. Distributor for medical equipment, just on the safe side. So let's copy that. We'll put it in a note, make a brand new note, and then we will do this. Actually, yeah, let's start with that one because that one had the highest search volume. And what we're going to do is just use this keyword to find more ideas. Um, so the goal with this, right, just so I make sure you understand, we're not just thinking about content, right? We're not thinking about, okay, how do I grow this site and make it a bigger site? The site that we were looking at, I already did this research ahead of time, had about 141 pages on the site. That's not a lot of pages, but we don't want to overwhelm our audience with content. Really, what we want to do is number one, identify our target market, right? Number two, find out what it is that they are struggling with, what they're trying to do, what, so on and so forth, so we can position ourselves in a way to give them a solution, right? And then after that, we have to find out how we can get that solution in front of them. So a big part of this, getting the solution in front of them, is already taken care of by buying the site, right? And we already kind of have a market that we know we want to get in front of. Now we just need to find more content ideas. So at this point, because we already know that this is a viable market, we know that we are in front of people. What I want to do is see what people are paying to advertise. This is going to kind of give us an idea of what's marketable, right? What we can use to make money in this niche, right? So wholesale supplies plus is probably a brand. Wholesale distributors, distributors, wholesalers. Um, okay, wholesale distributors in the U.S. So what if you said, hey, I'm going to put together all of the list posts that are wholesale distributors in the U.S. and I'm going to make this a giveaway or something that I charge, again, like a really low cost, maybe like 25 to 50 bucks, so that people get access to something that is valuable. We can actually advertise because we know that this is valuable and people are willing to pay for it. Because if it wasn't valuable, this is just a hint. If people weren't willing to pay for it, people wouldn't be willing to spend money advertising for it. So that's a really, really simple way of kind of like cutting out all the extra nonsense that you got to do to research and just look at, are people willing to advertise? Because if they are, people are willing to buy. So that's one thing you could do, so that when people come to this site, instead of them having to read through a bunch of different posts, you can just immediately have a pop-up or a opt-in box, or maybe an ad that says, basically to go ahead and download the book, take a course, whatever it is that you have for them that helps them to basically just skip the line, right? So that would be one thing I would think to do. So the goal at this point for me, because of how this site is laid out, would be to create basically a tripwire offer or some type of a offer to get people to engage with us immediately by either giving us their contact information or getting on our list somehow, or making a sale, right? A small sale. And the whole goal is not to make a ton of money off of this one product. The actual goal is to start building a relationship with the people who get on the list, who have shown you that they're willing to take an action to get the product that you're offering, right? So that would be number one. Number two, going back to export to use page, it says that they make $41 a month, and how they make this money is through Ezoic ads, right? So taking a look at this screen, tell me when you see an ad. No ads here, right? I don't see any ads. So let's go into this page. Okay. Still no ads, right? So here's the thing. This Because this site, if this site is making $41, it's highly under monetized, right? Another thing that's a glaring issue on all of the pages. I've done this research ahead of time. This humongous header for just the title, right? This is just to show a title. We don't need this. What we really need is for this area that you see on the screen that's called the above the fold area. We need that to show, number one, the most important part for the audience, and number two, the most important part for us. How are we going to make money from this site if everybody has to scroll and scroll and scroll and then click something to get anything from you of value? Number two, how do we make money if all of the value is way, way low and we got to have them click? So it's really, really simple. There's just not enough monetization to really make this make a ton of money the way that it is. So that's a really easy fix. So number three, outside of monetization, outside of building an email list, right? We want to think about partnerships, right? We want to think about who has already used this site, who's linking to this site. So for that, let's take a look at the links, right? So this site has 378 referring domains. So what I would do, and this is going to take a while to load just because I didn't load it ahead of time, but what I would think about doing is reaching out to the websites that link to us. Some of these websites are not going to be the websites that you would want to necessarily partner with, but I would research these websites. So let's say that one of the sites that's linking to this site has, on average, just based on putting their domain name in here, let's say they average about 10,000 views a month, right? What I would then do is say, hey, you know what? Let me see how I can partner with this brand, help them to do something. I would just get as many of the places that I could partner with to, number one, help them out, right? No one wants to partner with somebody who's a stingy partner. So how can I help this audience, this person, grow their audience or make sales or what have you, right? Number two, how do I siphon these people over to me so that I am also building my brand as well? That's mainly the things that I would do. Another thing I would think about doing is, well, not even think about, definitely do, is a site audit. So the first thing, oops, sorry, you seeing too much. So the first thing I would do is a site audit for this site, because we want to make sure that we look at any opportunities that are the obvious opportunities. Um, so what we went over in this, number one, I would build an email list, right? That email list helps you to keep people coming back to the site. Number one, helps you to build a relationship, helps you to do research so that you can find out what your audience is actually struggling with, and that helps you to create more content, more products, helps you to build services around this business, and ultimately can help you to grow the business. Now, the thing is that because this business, if it does have between 1,000 to 3,000 visitors a month, that's plenty, right? That's 12,000 to 36,000 people per year that are business owners. This is a high dollar, high niche, basically there's a lot of money in this niche. This is not something that people are going to spend $20 to $50 on a t-shirt for. This is people buying in bulk. So if you can position yourself in a way to help these people to learn something new, give them a resource that's valuable that they're willing to pay for, that's basically all you got to worry about. So I would say getting the email list to build trust is the biggest thing. Monetizing this site with ads, if you want to do ads. If you don't want to do ads, monetizing it with courses or products that you can help people with, like this wholesale list of cosmetics, like basically that lists thing we were talking about. Um, Doing a site audit to see if there is any way that we can improve the SEO. Uh, I would also think about getting offline marketing. So because this is import export, how many businesses is this showing you, right? So number one, it's telling you cosmetics businesses. How many people do you know that own let's say a salon, or they're beauticians and they do makeup artistry, right? If you could say, hey, I can help you set up a wholesale or set up a line of cosmetics for yourself because I have wholesale lists. There you go. There's one market that you can attack. Shipping boxes, right? You've got wine boxes. So there's a lot of different things in this. Ultimately, you'd have to really, really dig deep into this because, like I said, there's 141 pages on this site. But if you dig deep into this, you'll find out how you can grow this income. The income is not the biggest factor. What you really want to think about, and I'm going to leave you with this, and hopefully I'll get to this in another video. The most important thing to think about when you have an online business is the earnings per visit or earnings per click, right? So that could be EPC, right? Earnings per click. It can be the cost per click, as we were looking at from the keywords, right? Cost per click being $3.36. If you just had an ad that fit that was on the page, you would get probably about 60% of that, I think, from Google, or Ezoic pays a little bit more. You don't always have to think about growing the traffic. You don't always have to think about growing the search volume, or getting out there and getting more people. This is plenty of people. Now, how do we increase our revenue per visit, right? Or RPM, revenue per 1,000 visitors. Hopefully this helps you out. If you like this, please make sure you thumbs up this video. Helps helps me to get more views and helps to get in front of more people. Once again, if you have any questions, make sure you leave it in the comments below. This has been BAYL Money. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.